It is officially game week here on Birds 365 as we are counting down the days to the Eagles getting the season underway in New England against the Patriots. Here to give us some Eagle insight, some Eagle predictions, some Eagle truths, let's hope. Jeff Kerr from CBSSports.com. Are you annoyed that I even questioned your truths, Kerr?
Everybody else seems to question them, so why not?
People like to be lied to, Jeff. That's what I always say. On social media, they like to be lied to.
You know what? Not even an Eagles team topic. I said the Phillies bullpen is bad. They've been bad the past month. And, stick to football. You don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, fine. Then,
Then you got to get the football people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So then you get them. And then I said back in June, Jeff Hoffman had a bad game. And I said, look, the guy's just not a major league pitcher. He throws in low leverage situations. Well, I've been proven wrong over that, and I'd love to be wrong because it's part of the business. But that's all people want to mention. Oh, you don't know baseball. I'm like, okay, fine. I've been saying also the past 3.5 months, Trey Turner was going to turn it around. I don't know what I'm talking about. So it goes both ways.
Good on you. All right, let's talk about the Birds, and the Phillies will do what they're going to do. We'll certainly have fun watching them make a playoff run. In case you didn't see it, the Eagles are winning the Super Bowl. Peter King just declared it in his football morning.
What did Peter? I thought Peter was a Boston guy. He should be on. He should be on the Patriots bandwagon. Well, he can't be. Not in that division. But he loves the Eagles. Loves them. They don't have a weakness back in the spring. He doubled down on that, Jody and Jeff. And let me, I just pulled it up. So here's what he wrote. I don't think there's a clear weakness on the Eagles. Corner depth, maybe. Backup quarterback. Well, my first question is, what about running back? What about safety? What about linebacker?
Yeah, corner depth. I remember when I read that yesterday, I'm like, corner depth. I'm like, they're fine there. It's safety depth. It's all ball linebacker depth. I mean, I know they just brought back Nicholas Morrow with that roster gymnastics thing, but you're right, John. Like, I know Peter was at what? I know he was at one practice.
He was at one.
Yeah, I mean, he's a busy man. He's got stuff to do.
Yeah. He's got. That's not my issue. I mean, and by the way, when he comes, because of his career, and he deserves all the accolades. The red carpet comes out. He gets more access than anybody else. But I mean, but corner depth, yes. I mean, from the standpoint of, I don't want to see Josh Jobe or Eli Ricks or Calais Ringo playing over Darius Slay and James Bradbury. That's like any other position. But I love the youth and the upside of the cornerback depth. That's way down my list. Now, backup quarterback, they're kind of weak there from my perspective. But man, I can't get the backups until I deal with the starters. And to me, the assumption that Kenny Gainwell is going to replace Miles Sanders or insert name, because we don't know exactly what's going to happen there. Nakobe Dean is going to replace TJ Edwards. Reed Blankenship is going to replace CJ Gardner-Johnson. That's a stretch. And I'm not even getting to Zach Cunningham, the other people in the backfield, and the other safety. I mean, it's a good football team. I said that at the top of the show. It's a really good football team. But there are weaknesses. There's weaknesses in every football team, including the Eagles.
If the NFC wasn't as weak as it is, I don't think we're talking about this team as a potential Super Bowl team. But they are really good. But let's look at the competition here. Dallas creates their own drama. They should be good enough to go to the Super Bowl. I keep saying they'll be the Eagles' biggest threat, but I don't think that they're actually going to get the job done because they haven't proven to me. San Francisco, who knows with Brock Purdy? They got the Bosa contract situation lingering. Oh, and also, their offensive line isn't that great outside of Trent Williams. So that's a concern to me. Now we get to the Eagles. Okay, the Eagles are loaded. They're loaded at quarterback. They're loaded at receiver. They're top-heavy, I'll say that. They're top-heavy at a lot of positions, which is a good thing. But the depth of this team is going to be questioned. What happens when, say, I don't know, Darius Slay or James Bradbury get hurt this year? Or what happens at safety. I actually think they're deeper at safety than most people think, but they don't. But replacing C.J. Gardner-Johnson, it's a big deal. Replacing T.J. Edwards and Kaiser White is a big deal. I just think people are banking on these guys to just come in here and replace them, and I think Eagles will have, their leaks in the pipe this year. I forget what the wording is, but overall, I still think it's a 12-13 win football team.
Yeah, it's a good team. It's a good team. That we all agree on. Yeah.
Some people think they can win the same 14 they did last year. I think that might be a little.
I actually predicted them to do that.
To win 14?
Yeah, I said, you know what? If they can go 3-2 in that gauntlet from week 11 to 15, I think they win 14.
Okay, I'm not the 14, but 13 is a possibility for me. And the all-important game is going to be December 5th, 6th, 7th, whenever it is, first week of December, against San Francisco. For me, whoever wins that game is going to have home field advantage in the championship game. I still believe that they are head and shoulders above everybody else in the NFC. There is a significant gap between Philadelphia and San Francisco, and then whoever you want to put third. Personally, I think it's the Seahawks, but that's me. I think there's a huge gap there. So I know we're all pumped up because the Patriots are coming up this week and the Eagles are back and football's returned. Can we get to December in that matchup between the 49ers and the Eagles? Because I kind of believe that's going to decide where the NFC Championship game.
You know what? Get me to week 11. Eagles Chiefs. Then get me to week 12. Eagles Bills. Get me to week 13. Eagles 49ers. Eagles Cowboys week 14. Eagles Seahawks week 15. There's some great football there.
That's a good run. That's a good run.
Yeah.
And that will tell. But I do think, and on paper, look, I've said it looks pretty easy for the Eagles early. And on paper, they should be 5-0.
Yes.
And then you start talking about Aaron Rodgers and how the Jets are developing. We'll have to see. I think Aaron's motivated. I think the Jets are going to be very good. But I can't get the nagging suspicion out of my head. They're going to lose one of those first 4 games. And I don't know which one it's going to be. I'm not predicting, but just because of all the change, all the turnover. And I look at the first 2 weeks and I thought about this and clearly the Eagles are better than New England. Clearly they're better than Minnesota. But then I started to think about it's Belichick and it's Brian Flores. And those are 2, in my opinion, of the best 5 defensive minds in football. And you know how this league works, Jeff. People take the offseason and they study and they see what the Eagles are doing well. And they say, in the case of Belichick, and obviously Flores learned from Belichick, I'm taking that away. I'm taking that away, and I'm going to force him to do something else. I'm going to make him be left-handed, so to speak, if they're right-handed. I'm going to force them into something they don't want to do. And ultimately, I think it could be good for the Eagles because I think it's good to have those types of tests. But I also think there's a chance they get tripped up and people aren't expecting it. The curveballs, the adjustments. I think a lot of people, the Eagles are so talented, but there are going to be adjustments. I don't know what they're going to be, but I know we're going to see them in week 1 and week 2 because those 2 guys are good at defensive scheming.
I think Flores worries me a little more than Belichick because you don't have the whole week to prepare for him. You only got 4 or 5 days, but the Vikings defense is nowhere near as good as the Patriots.
No, it doesn't have the talent.
That's where I was going to go. Brian Flores might be the greatest defensive mind in the National Football League. If you don't have players, you can put in great schemes. You can only hide so much.
Speaking of no players, when I was doing my ceiling and floor for every team and just going through the Patriots, I'm going to get slammed in Boston because I said, you know what? Your team just isn't that good. I mean, your ceiling is 9-8 for me. Their floor was 5-12, and I raved about the defense. Then I look at the offense. I'm like, this team would have been great 30 years ago. The problem is it's not 30 years ago. We don't rely on running the ball as much. They're going to rely on Mike Gesicki way more than they want to. If you can name 3 Patriots receivers, congrats. I mean, it's a bad offense. And I mean, really, I feel like this is a game. The Eagles
All right,
get 20 points.
I feel I'm going to cheat. I feel this is a test.
All right, go ahead.
I'm going to go Juju.
Okay.
I'm going to go Devontae Parker.
Okay.
And I'm cheating. Here's where I'm cheating. Matthew Slater.
Yeah, that's definitely a cheat because he ain't getting a target. So if he gets a target, I may just
technically he's a receiver.
He is a receiver.
All right, two things because since I brought up Matthew Slater, because you bring up and Jody and I have talked about this before. Belichick's the kind of guy I was talking about defense. Belichick's the kind of guy that's going to zig when everybody else is zagging. And I think Dan Orlovsky was the first one who said it. I said, maybe he's right. Everybody's playing light on defense. They got all these undersized guys. They got all these hybrid guys. Belichick might be the one that say, you know what? These guys aren't physical. I'm gonna blow them off the ball. I'm gonna run the football. That's number one. And number two, Matthew Slater might be one of the greatest special teams players of all time.
Better than Steve Tasker?
One of the best. And I was going to say not might. He is one of the best of all time. They have Marcus Jones, who I love, dating back to the draft. They're good on special teams. The Eagles, as Jody and I have been pointing out, they aren't even paying attention to special teams, evidently. There's some cracks that maybe somebody as savvy as Bill Belichick could take advantage of.
I actually think Bill's going to run the ball a lot on Sunday, just because of what you said, John. I think the Eagles' run defense is going to be tested. I think it's going to be one of those games where Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean are going to have to step up. You're going to see a lot of Ramondre Stevenson. I think we're going to see a lot of Ezekiel Elliott. Now, watch Mac Jones try to throw the ball 40 times, which that'd be great for the Eagles if he does.
Yeah, you don't want that happening.
No. So, and here's an interesting stat about this game. The Eagles led the NFL in rush touchdowns in the regular season with 32. The Patriots were tied for the fewest with 7. So I'm curious to see how that all coincides in the red zone when the Eagles get in there.
I agree with Jeff. A guy who's could end up being a key week number one is their nose tackle, who we all the time say, well, he's not going to put up numbers. He's not going to get tackled, but he's going to draw those two guys. Well, he better draw those two guys if it's obvious that the Patriots are going to try and run the football. Then he should be on the field a ton against New England in week number one, taking up those two blockers and letting others make tackles. They're not going to have to get him off the field because it's a passing down if you tell me the Patriots are going to run it as much as they are, Johnny Mac.
Yeah, we could. It could be a good conditioning test for Jordan Davis as well, because if he doesn't play a lot of snaps, that could be an indication the conditioning isn't where it needs to be.
If that's the case, how is that not bad? Rookie year, right? You're going to cut him some slack. He's in the NFL all last year. Now year number 2. And you're pulling him off the field because he's not ready.
It hasn't happened yet.
If it happens, how bad a sign is that?
I think it's a bad sign.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the underreported things about those Georgia guys, everybody raves about them, and not just here but everywhere. They don't play a lot, and all of them don't have great conditioning when they hit the NFL level because they're not used to playing a lot, and they weren't used to playing a lot at Georgia. Those concerns have already cropped up about Jalen Carter a little bit as well. Yeah, I mean, he should be, and he's talked about it numerous times in the offseason. He's in better condition. He's better prepared. Yeah, I mean, if the Patriots are gonna run the ball like everybody thinks, he's got to be out there. He's got to be out there.
A lot of snaps.
Yeah.
Another underrated aspect of this game. Ezekiel Elliott was the worst running back in the NFL last year. The Eagles will get their best version of it because it's week one.
Whoa. Time out.
He was the worst running back in the NFL last year. He was.
By what dynamic are you coming up
Yards per carry, yards before contact, yards after contact. He basically was a liability for the Dallas Cowboys last year, an $18 million liability.
How many touchdowns did he score? 12? 13?
You know what? he got the ball at the 1. I mean, if we're going to do this with Jalen, we're going to do it with him. I mean, he was not a good running back.
No, I'm with you. I wouldn't. When it came up, because of the name, and people are saying that, I think Ezekiel himself kind of brought up the Eagles at one point. I'm like, no, stop it. It's not, no. This is a descending player. The advanced numbers, as Jeff points out, are really, really bad. Those things don't tend to turn around, but he is a good short yardage runner. But you don't want to pay a short yardage runner $18 million a year.
Not even $6 million, which is what the Patriots are getting.
Yeah. But now, hey, I'm not paying him. If you need to convert 4th and 1, and you're gonna block the play and not get blown up, he's probably going to get it for you. So I think he can contribute. But yeah, he's not Ezekiel Elliott. I think people see the name. He was one of the best running backs in the NFL for 4 or 5 year period. He is no longer that.
He was my favorite running back for what you said, from 2016 to 2019. And then you saw that decline in 19, and he never really recovered, which, again, I think goes back to why you don't pay running backs. They saw what the Cowboys did, and it blew up in their face.
All right, quick question for both you guys. How many yards do you think he's going to rush for this year, Ezekiel Elliott?
Depends on how they use him.
Well, I'm asking you to look in your.
Well, they only got. Come
up with a prediction. And how many yards do you think he's going to run for the New England Patriots this year?
I'm going to say 550 if he stays healthy.
I'm close to you, John. I said I'll go like 500 to 600.
At 3.8 a clip. 550.
I gave him 3.5, and I thought that was being generous there.
Right.
I just don't think he's good anymore.
I think, and I think they only kept 2 running backs. Now they'll probably elevate somebody.
They only have 1 quarterback too.
Now they got 2. They claimed Matt Corral. So he's the backup.
So I think he's on the practice squad. I think they got 3 quarterbacks on the practice squad.
No, they claimed him off waivers. He's on the roster.
Oh, okay.
He's the backup.
And I like Corral, but I don't be shocked. I'd be surprised, but I wouldn't be shocked if Ezekiel Elliott runs for more yards than any Philadelphia Eagle running back this year.
Boy, that's a bad sign if that happens.
Yeah. I was going to say the Eagles aren't going to the Super Bowl if that's the case.
I can't say it's not possible because I don't have confidence in the Eagles. I'm the only one who doesn't have confidence. Well, Jody evidently is as well.
You mean you're not on the DeAndre Swift hype train there, John?
No, and here's why. And maybe we find out week 1. Maybe some one of the 3 backs. And here's the scary part. I don't know who it's going to be. It looks like it's probably going to be more Kenny Gainwell than anybody else, but nobody knows that for sure. I really think they're going to play this rotation all year and play the hot hand. And there's a chance that all 3 running backs could run for 500 yards. And if Ezekiel gets 600, guess what? He's got more than any. He's only sharing carries with 1 other back, whereas the Eagles have 3 guys who could be sharing it. And that gives them a chance to actually have more yards than any Eagle running back.
I still say
pick up.
November. Oh, go ahead, John.
They got to have a running back. Yeah, they have Ty Montgomery and Kevin Harris, who I know nothing about.
They traded Pierre Strong last week, so he's not there anymore.
And Ty Montgomery is catch the ball out of the backfield guy. He's not going to get carries.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's got to be Ramondre for them, who I think is a pretty good back, by the way.
I do too.
But yeah, if he gets hurt, they're in trouble. The Eagles running back situation is interesting to me because so many people have no problems with it, including Peter King, evidently. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't like uncertainty, Jeff, on week 1. I don't like it. If you tell me you're uncertain heading into week 1, that is not a positive sign for me. So if we're sitting here debating, like Jody's saying, maybe 3 guys get 500 yards, that to me is a freaking disaster. I don't want 3 guys with 500 yards.
A lot of people are writing about like this. It's 20 years since the 3M monster. I think of Ruben Frank actually wrote something. I'm like, do people forget going into that year? That was a big thing. Like, we weren't sure what Brian Westbrook really was yet. Correll Buckholder was coming off a major injury, and Deuce was Deuce, but you were like, okay, he's going to his free agent year. He's getting older, and it ended up working out. Like, all three were really good, but I think you got to use all three like that. And I still say Rashad Penny's ultimately going to be the closer on this team come November and December. I think they're going to be relying on him a lot more than people think. Not early in the year, but later.
Yeah, see, the Eagles, if you count, you want to put Trey Sermon's 19 yards in there, you can. They rushed as a combined group, all the running backs together for about 1,600 and change yards. I think they're going to rush for 1,600 and change yards again this year. They're just going to be spread out over three guys rather than, and there were three guys last year too, but Gainwell will have more. Boston Scott will have less. Rashad Penny's going to get his fair share. Yeah, I just don't see anybody. I hope I'm wrong. I hope someone comes in, grabs the job by the throat. Well, let me turn and make it a question to both you guys. Do you think that's what Sirianni wants?
I think so.
He wants someone to step up and say, yes, I am this year's Miles Sanders. I'm going to be the main back. I'm going to get the ball the majority of the time. I'm going to put up 1,200 yards. Do you think that's what Sirianni actually wants, or do you think he's better with the rotating back system?
Well, I think he wants someone to take the reins. I think and again, this is going to be a good thing for them. You're going to have a week where Rashad Penny has like 15 carries for 130 yards, and you're going to be like, well, how did he do that? Or you're going to have a week where DeAndre Swift catches like 6 passes for 80 yards and runs for like 50 yards on like 10 carries or something like that. You're going to have those weeks, I think, with this team. I think that's, in a way, it's kind of a sneaky strength, but I think what Nick does is he does want one of these guys to be Miles Sanders. Last year in the playoffs, it was Kenny Gainwell. Can it be Gainwell again? I don't know. I mean, secretly, I think they want DeAndre Swift to do it, but I don't know. For some reason, I think it's going to be Rashad Penny at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on. He doesn't want a committee. Coaches only use committees because they have to use committees because nobody steps forward. I mean, the guy is obsessive about preparation. The last thing he wants to do is, whether it's, we talked about the Jets, October 15th, the Chiefs, November 20th, the 49ers, Jody was talking about December 3rd. The last thing he wants to do is go into those games saying, I don't know who the guy's going to be a running back. He wants to prepare. He wants to set up certain things for certain players. And I think DeAndre, it's more about the passing game. Yeah, I don't believe him for a second when he says he wants a committee. He wants a committee only if he needs a committee. He wants a lead back. He could have used the committee last year. Nothing was stopping him. But Miles was better than the other guys. Somebody's got to be better than the other guys.
And he got paid this offseason like he was better than the other guys.
All right, Jeff Kerr, since you went there, I'm going to double down on this. Let's say your guy Rashad Penny goes for 20. What did you say? 20 carries, $135.
I think I did 15.
15 carries, 135. Well,
I mean, the guy's
Rashad
average.
Penny's good. He's not that good. He's not getting $130 on 15 carries.
He's
gonna have a 60-yard run and a 30-yard run.
Jody, I'm just saying he's led the NFL in yards per carry last 2 years, 6.2. I mean, if you watch him, he's had some monster games over the last 2 years when he's on the field.
All right, here's the game. I'm going to give it to you exactly how this is going to play out. Week 3 against Tampa, he gets 21 carries, goes for $120 something, 30 something, whatever.
They would take that.
And they're going to be ahead of Tampa so they can pound it, and he's going to be effective pounding it, and he's going to get 21 carries. Next week against Washington, DNP coach's decision.
Well, he'll play.
No, he will sit.
Jody's going Greg Popovich. He's been.
I'm going Greg Popovich load management. After a 20-plus carry game the next week, he doesn't even dress. He is one of the inactives. You're going to have to come up with another name for Penny on the inactive list. Last week they had the Book of Job sermon last year on the
A
Inactives.
sermon from the book of Job.
There you go.
Yeah,
Somehow
that's
you're
all
going to
right.
have to work a penny into that because he's going to sit week 4 because he gets 20 some odd carries the week before. Load management hits the NFL. Jeff Kerr, your thoughts?
A penny for your thoughts there, Jody Mack. No, I don't see it. I mean, I can see him limiting his carries.
I understand I'm out there on the limb by myself on this one.
Hey, you know what?
But when it happens,
You can
I'm
take
gonna
the
need both
victory
you guys
lap.
go, did you come up with that?
Yeah, you could take you could spike the football. You don't even have to take the Young Bucks victory lap. There's my wrestling term for the day. You don't even you can do it all. You can celebrate. The Eagles do their load management during the week. They're going to do plenty of that. But there's too few games in the NFL to Greg Popovich. You can do it in basketball. You can do it in baseball.
All right, so I'll ask about you guys. Week 1, New England. Week 2, Minnesota. Week 3, Tampa. They're not, even though we continue to say they have complete disregard for special teams. And Boston Scott may be their kick returner. We haven't even determined that yet. They're not going to activate all 4 running backs every week, are they? I think more often than not, they're only going to activate 3, correct?
I think they activate all 4.
Yeah, why? I mean, at this point, you don't have any special teams players, so you might as well activate all.
The first punt, whoever punts, they're going to just send 10 out and go, we don't really need 11. We don't really have guys who play special teams, so we'll give it a shot here with
Boston,
9 guys running down. Somebody's got to go down and try and tackle somebody, right, Johnny Mac?
Well, Boston helps a little bit, and he can play as
be a gunner.
No, certainly not. The gunners I project are going to be Josh Jobe and Kaylee Ringo. That would be my guess. It's the gunners, but that's just a guess. Jobe will be one of them. My other guess is Ringo. Yeah, it's not good. I don't know what to say about special teams other than I don't know what the hell they're doing on special teams.
Okay, so I'm going to play full prediction here. Britton Covey's the punt returner on opening day. Yeah, that's the only thing I know.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I know.
That wouldn't surprise me. But
why isn't Blake Gilligan on this team yet?
But
you worked him out.
If Britton Covey is the punt returner, which I kind of agree with, I think it's got to be the case. That means one more guy's got to be inactive. And you got 4 running backs active, and you got Covey coming up from the practice squad. Who the hell's going to be inactive on this roster as of right now?
We got 75 defensive linemen. None of them are going to play.
Yeah. So, okay.
Other than Kentavious, who's guaranteed to sit week 1?
Moro Jomo.
Yeah, Moro. Patrick Johnson's going to sit.
Do we think Eli Ricks sits week 1?
I think so because I think Ringo's going to play on special teams. So I think so. I haven't thought a lot about the inactives, but obviously probably one of the offensive linemen is going to sit. Trying to think.
Do you think they sit him?
I'm trying to think. Let me look at my roster.
I got mine up here.
I mean, obviously Jack's going to be up. And then you have the other backups.
One of the tight ends is going to sit.
To me, Fred's going to be up. To me, it's going to be Tyler Steen versus Sua. Maybe they sit the rookie at least early in the season. But to me, one of those 2 guys are going to be inactive. And then, I mean, you just can't play all the defensive guys.
Right. But play them all. John, if you got that list of special team snaps from preseason, did Calcaterra play any special teams, coverage teams? Because Jeff just said that one of the tight ends are going to sit. I think there's a better chance that one of the back sits over one of the tight ends because I think they.
They don't need 4 tight ends, so I definitely agree. One of them is going to sit. It's
Alberto or Calcaterra. Who's it going to be?
Well, how quickly does Albert? It's going to be Calcaterra, but how quickly early in the season does Alberto catch on? In other words, if they don't think he's ready to play early, it might be him, but long term, it's definitely going to be Calcaterra. If they sign a punter, Jeff was asking why haven't they signed a punter? They worked out 4. Obviously, he wants the Penn State guy.
Because he's the best one of the bunch.
No bias there, by the way. No, I'm joking. I know not. He might be.
Both he and Miss and Ellie in the last week
Yeah.
have told us, how do they not sign the Penn State guy?
Yeah.
We know where the rooting interest is coming from.
By Wednesday we'll know because the Eagles push this off, but they'll have it in place by Wednesday's practice. If they have a punter, obviously that makes it a little bit easier because you don't have to elevate a punter from the practice squad when you talk about the elevations. I'm looking for Calcaterra on special teams. 11 snaps in 2 games, but he didn't play a lot. So he didn't play a lot in general. Not that he was a deference guy, but they didn't have Albert O for the entire preseason.
Right.
So I think it shifts a little bit. So he played a little bit of special teams, but long term, they're not going to dress 4 tight ends. And Albert's better. It's just a matter of how quickly he learns the offense to where they feel they can get him up there.
Or they have certain packages for him already. That might be the first 2 games.
Yeah. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. That's where I was going. Sorry. If they do sign a punter.
I sorry to interrupt, John. Quick question. How many times did they activate 4 backs last year?
Well, Sermon, was somebody hurt in Jacksonville? Not often, but they didn't have a 4th back. This year they have 4 backs.
They are deeper running back than they were last year.
They had the coach's pet. Trey Sermon was on the team all year, and the coach
guess
loved
what?
him.
If you have the chance to play Boston Scott or Trey Sermon, Jody, who are you picking?
Yeah, Boston Scott, I hear you, but I'm just pointing
out and it works
last year when they had the chance to activate 4 backs, they activated 3 all year.
And I would say this, Jody, it works on both ends. Part of that was Miles as well, because you had a lead back. If you have a lead back, you don't have to dress 4. If you're going to go with the stupid committee, you got to dress the 4. So if you choose one back, then you don't have to dress the 4. But if they're going to go about it the way they're going to go about it, they got to dress an extra one. But Calcaterra, that's before I forget again. If they do sign a punter, I think he's gone. I think he's the guy to go off the 53.
All right,
somebody's got to go.
All right, I'm going to play with Jody here. Do you think they sit Boston Scott and have Rashad Penny return kicks? He has done it. Not in a while. He's done it. Yeah, in college. Yeah. I think Seattle tried him in the preseason. They said, we're not doing this with our first-round pick. We're just not going to do it.
I don't know.
Here's a surprise for you. I think he could end up being a key return guy for him is Alameda. I think they may get him back there for both punts and kicks. If they don't elevate Covey, I think he's their punt returner, but I kind of do think they're going to elevate Covey. And if they do elevate Covey, I think he'll be the kick returner if they sit Boston Scott.
Wasn't Britton Covey top 5 in punt returns after like week 5 last year?
Yeah, he was very good down the stretch as a punt returner. I don't like him on kickoff returns because I fear for his safety.
John's bigger than Britton Covey.
All you got to do is this. Catch the ball
he can
and
do
wave
that.
that hand. You can take a fair catch anywhere in the field now.
You know what, Jody, you can do that, but I'm just telling you, when that ball comes and those guys are running, you want to go. You want to make a play. Yeah. It's adrenaline kicks in.
And by the way, I don't like that sentiment. And by the way, I think Jody's 100% correct. I think we're going to see that across the NFL. Teams just taking the football up to 25.
Yep.
They took it out in the preseason because they were trying to get a feel for it. And who cares if you have a crappy kickoff return in the preseason? So I think we're going to see a lot of teams default, just take the football to 25. But damn, man, when you have a kick returner, and I always go to my guy, Cordero Patterson, when you have Cordero, he changes games. He tilts games. I don't want to just go, take it at the 20. That's what the Eagles did last year early in the season with Britton as the punt returner. They're like, just catch it. We have a great offense. Britton actually talked about this. We have a great offense. Just secure the ball. We're going to – no, come on. Don't give up. and they're giving up on special
But
teams.
here's where I'll defend the Eagles a little bit. You're right. I think that their complete removal of worries about special teams bothers me. Return and cover, but they're not alone. Who are
No,
you?
they're
You
not
keep
alone.
going back to
me-
Cordell Patterson, who, to his credit, has become a factor on offense, not just kickoffs. And they might even ask him to do a little bit less this year just because they need him in his Swiss Army knife role down there in Atlanta. Who are the kickoff returners you fear, Johnny Mac? Who are the guys you go, all right, you got to be careful what you kick with
No,
this
I
guy in
mean,
the field.
it's
They
less.
don't exist. They're not in the league.
Yeah.
The Eagles might not have one, but neither does anybody else.
Okay, here's what bothers me about them not caring about special teams. Did they just ignore Kadarius Toney's punt return last year and that god-awful punt?
Yes.
Like,
Well,
they know that's how they lost the Super Bowl.
yeah.
That's how they lost the Super Bowl. Aaron Sippas and special teams.
Yep.
Not Jalen Hurts fumbling, not the defense. Defense is terrible, but that's how they lost the Super Bowl. Right there.
Oh, I agree. That's the play that tilted the game. And they didn't learn from it. We were talking about that last week, Jody and I. They didn't learn from it because they just cut all their good special teams players. Or it's not their fault that Zach McPherson and Sean Bradley got injured, but they got injured. And you got to deal with it.
And you have to react to it.
Yeah. And I don't think they react to it. Now, maybe these guys, like I said, Ringo has the potential to be a really good special teams player. Even Nolan Smith, because of his athleticism, has the potential to be a really good special teams player. All indications are those guys accepted the role, sort of enjoyed the role at Georgia, but it's a big difference at the pro level. You saw what Christian Ellis did. They were so bad on special teams last year. You remember when they elevated Christian Ellis?
I mean, 13 against the Titans, and he played phenomenal that day.
Yeah. And Nick all week was saying, we're going to make some changes. We're going to make some changes. And we're asking, what's the change? You'll see. It was one guy. And by the way, that one guy made a freaking big difference.
That one guy made 5 changes, pretty much.
Yeah.
He was literally a 5-1 play. I said I think I said to you in May, John, Christian Ellis is on this team just because of what he did on special teams last year. He can be the worst linebacker in the world. Didn't even matter.
Yeah.
And then he actually played okay.
Yeah.
All spring, and that's why he's on this team now. All right, Jeff Kerr, last thing for you, Mr. NFC East. Cowboys, Giants, week 1. Somebody's got to win the game. And I'm hearing from fans on both sides that we're right on the Eagles' back, right? Breathing down the Eagles' neck. If all the injuries go out, we could go by the Eagles this year and keep that streak intact that nobody wins the NFC East back-to-back years again. You think the Eagles are going to win it. John thinks the Eagles are going to win it. I think the Eagles are going to win it. I don't think either the Cowboys or the Giants are good enough to take it from them. But somebody's got to win that game, and they'll be strutting their stuff and saying they are right on the Eagles' back. Who's winning week 1, Giants, Cowboys?
Oh, Cowboys. I still have a lot of questions about the New York Football Giants this year. I really do. And I don't even think it's going to be a Daniel Jones type thing. No one he throws the ball to outside Darren Waller really scares me. They got a bunch of 2s and 3s at receiver. Their offensive line still isn't great. They need Evan Neal to take that Andrew Thomas type lead.
They're a lot better than they used to be on the offense.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely better.
Thomas is really good.
But if you're going
to,
but if you're going to stop the Eagles and the Cowboys front, you need to be better on the offensive line. I think their defense is fine, but is Daniel Jones really going to be as efficient as he was last year? They're going to have to rely on him. It's to do more to be the game manager for Saquon.
Are you ready for a hot take? I'm not a hot takesman, but everyone.
Not at all, Jody.
I'll throw one out there just for spits and giggles. Next 48 hours, New York Giants trade for Mike Evans.
I could see it.
That he wants out of Tampa.
I like it from the Giants.
Yeah, I do too. I love it for the Giants. I mean, I think that's a move they have to make. If you want to be honest.
Yeah, they need playmakers. And I'd like Darren Waller too if he's healthy. Number one, he hasn't been healthy in a couple years. But I mean, look, I see Dallas Goedert all the time. Dallas Goedert is, to me, he's the fourth best tight end in football, and he's pushing the top three. He's right there. You might even say it's a group of four now, but I still wouldn't want him as my number one guy. Tight ends being your number one guy is not good. Now, Kelsey did it last year. He deserves credit, but for the majority of his career, it was Tyreek.
Yeah. And Travis Kelsey's I think he's in a different class too.
Yeah, well, so do I. I'm not, that's a Hall of Fame player, but very rarely is a tight end going to, and even Kansas City is a much different offense. They're not as explosive as they were with Tyreek Hill. Now they persevered. They won a stinking Super Bowl.
And Daniel Jones isn't Patrick Mahomes.
Pretty explosive for me.
Yeah. So it's fine, but but he's the outlier. You don't want your tight end to be your number one threat. You just don't. No matter how good they are. Even George Kittle. George Kittle's phenomenal. I don't want him. I need Debo. I need Brandon Ayuk as well.
And that's what makes the 49ers dangerous, because George Kittle isn't the number one guy.
Yeah.
It's scary.
So you two want to be general managers. Tampa asks for a first-round draft pick for Mike Evans.
I'm not giving that up.
30-year-old guy. That's the going rate. You paying for it?
No.
Not a first.
No. I mean, not only is he 30.
Plus, would you go 2 next year and 2 the year after that?
No.
That's a lot for Mike Evans.
Yeah, that's a lot.
All right. Well, then guess what? You're not getting Mike Evans. Tampa's not just going to give him away.
Well, that's fine.
You won't give a 1. You won't give a 2 and a 2. Guess what? He's staying at the end. The Giants redid Daniel Gray. The ink isn't even dry on their quarterback's contract, and they renegotiated with him yesterday to clear about $4 million in cap space this year. They sure as hell didn't have to do it. They're doing it for a reason. And the only thing I can think of is they're going to try and get an upgraded wide receiver, and Evans is the big name that's out there. But you got to be willing to pay for him. Tampa's not just going to give him away.
They should. They can't Isaiah Hodgins, Darius Slayton, Jalen Hyatt, Wan'Dale Robinson, Cole Beasley me to death. That's for sure.
Well, that's why it's difficult for Tampa. I mean, Tampa's not a contender, although that defense is better than people think.
I will say this. I will not be shocked if Tampa does end up winning that division, just because that division is not good. And Baker Mayfield actually cannot turn the football over and stop being stupid. Their defense is going to really catapult that team.
Yeah, that defense is good. But as Jody points out, he's 30. We were talking about him last week. He's 30. I think it was with Brad Spielberger.
He's 31 now, right?
He's 30, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. That's why it's so difficult for him. A lot of tread off the tire. So you start to think, all right, where are you? How much you want to pay?
Got 1,000 yards last year somehow.
But look at Julio Jones, and that's who Brad brought up. So I'll give Brad the credit. I mean, Julio Jones was Julio Jones right up until he wasn't Julio Jones.
Now he's out of the league.
Yeah, I mean, he was one of the greatest receivers of all time. That's the trick.
Julio got hurt, didn't he? Evans plays all the time. He never gets hurt.
Well, he gets hurt.
He gets his 1,000 yards.
Well, I think Evans stays around as a red zone guy, though. I think he has a longer career than most people think. He just won't be Mike Evans anymore.
Yeah. So Julio had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 consecutive, 7 out of 8. He got hurt in his 3rd season, and that's why he didn't have 8 out of 8. And then it was a sharp decline, really, in year 9. I don't know. It would scare me for long-term deal, because obviously Mike Evans has proved. Mike Evans I'm not criticizing him as a player. He's been a great player, but the decline is coming relatively soon.
Did you guys see?
It's a 1 year. It's a 1 year rental. You're making a play for this year. And if you're the Giants, do you think the Giants will do that to put their chips in this year, that they think they can compete with the Eagles or be second?
But doesn't Mike want a new deal? That's the whole point.
Yeah, he wants a new deal.
That's the whole point.
He would rather
he's not going to accept a rental. That's why he's complaining down there. Although maybe he'd want to go to a better team. I mean, Tampa Bay's. Although I don't know if the Giants are better than Tampa.
I don't think they are. That's
Giants
the
are better
thing.
than Tampa.
Tampa's got a really good defense. Really good defense.
And they
You
kept
think,
the,
you
and they
think
kept
their
a lot of
defense is
those guys
better than
happy.
New Orleans' defense?
Yeah, this
Yes.
year, yes.
Yeah,
I
I
do.
think you're both nuts. The Saints are going to win that
Okay,
division because
okay,
of the defense.
Okay, so this is what I'm going to say about the Saints. Don't be shocked that the Saints, and again, I just said don't be shocked Tampa wins the division, but also don't be shocked that the Saints are that team that can beat the Eagles for home field.
Anybody could win that
Yeah,
division.
but look at the quarterbacks the Saints face, and look at that weak schedule. I hate to be the schedule guy, but the Saints should win 11, 12 games. And if they don't, it's because of Dennis Allen, who is the biggest fraud of a coach in football.
Well, remember, Shaq
Biggest
Barrett is
fraud,
back.
and here's what I'm going to remember about today's show. Dennis Allen, biggest fraud of a coach in the
He
NFL.
should not have a head
And-
coaching job, and he
and-
does.
Ezekiel Elliott is the worst running back in the NFL.
It's
Yeah.
hot take Jeff Kerr. It's hot
It
take.
really
Tuesday.
is.
It's
Put
hot
out
take
on that
season.
hot take limb there today. I feel better about my DNP running back decision with the Eagles than your stance on a couple of.
Hey, here's all I'll say about.
Dennis Allen has a 320 win percentage as a head coach,
Yeah,
and somehow
well,
he got a second job.
I agree with Jeff. I don't like Dennis Allen as a head coach. I don't think he's the worst head coach because I see
I'll tell you
Josh
who the
McDaniels
worst head
Josh
coach
McDaniels
is.
is that
The
who
guy,
you're picking?
the guy who you guys are pumping up in that division. The Bucs head coach is a worse coach than Dennis Allen.
He's
Yeah,
better
it's
than
not
Dennis
great.
Allen, but not much better.
Nah.
Years. He's a defensive coordinator wearing a head coach hat. He's the same as Allen. Only
Well,
he's a
yeah,
coach.
I don't think Todd Bowles is a great head coach either.
No, and I think Josh McDaniels is just as bad, if not worse.
But here's what I'm talking about: Vita Bea, Shaq Barrett's back. Everybody likes Devin White. I don't, but I love Levante David.
Brought him
Antoine
back.
Winfield Jr. is amazing.
They kept Jamel Dean.
Jamal
They got
Dean's a
Carlton
very
Dean.
good player. Tryon is a very good player. They got pass rushers. They got Kalijah Cansey, who I love coming out of the draft. Yeah,
Their defensive line, their pass rush is going to be good.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll take.
You know what I worry about them? Their offensive line. They're going to get Baker killed. They're going to kill.
Yeah, Ryan Jensen, that's a big loss. That's a big loss.
And Tristan Wirfs is going to left tackle. Even if Baker Mayfield plays good, I'm afraid.
I don't even know. They're going with Robert Hainsey as their center. I
God
guess.
bless him. Didn't Tom Brady hate him last year?
I don't know.
And Todd Ball's pulling the string. Good luck, Buccaneers. All right, Kerr, we kept you way over. We appreciate your hanging out with us.
Yeah, Hot Take Tuesday with Jeff Kerr.
I
Love
did
it.
write down Ezekiel Elliott, Dennis. I
I got one more for you.
I got
Frank
notes,
Reich is
Kerr.
the best coach in that division. Frank
Who?
Reich is the best coach in the NFC South.
That's probably true.
I mean, look at
I
you
don't
got
think-
Arthur Smith, you got Dennis Allen, you got Todd Bowles. We just
it's
ripped two of
called
them.
the tallest midget in the circus. Yeah. I don't know that Frank's going to be putting that on his resume anytime soon.
I would
Hey,
put it on my resume.
I'm the best coach in the NFC South. And not a lot of competition there. Jeff Kerr, thank you very much.
Thanks,
we'll talk
Jeff.
to you again next week, brother.
Yep, I'll see you guys next week.
Jeff Kerr, CBSSports.com. Hot taking us here on CBS on Birds 365. That's not usually Kerr's modus operandi, but he was fun with us today. As will Andrew DeCecco be, who is the reigning champ. Where is Bobby Heyman? Where's Heyman when you need him? The reigning, undisputed roster champion of the Eagle Beat
Most
Writers.
exclusive club in the world, and now Andrew DeCecco gets the green jackets.
And he gets to wear
Kelly
it
Green jackets.
for the next 340 some odd days until you got to have a cut down again next year. Andrew DeCecco from InsideTheBirds.com will join us here on Birds 365. Stay there.